Hello, I would like to do another video here to give you an overview of the assignments and how they work together from here forward. This week, we will begin assignments that work together. So I want to explain how that goes. Hopefully by now you've already gone through all of these modules, sections. Earlier, you listened to my first video and you completed the assignments that are due for week 1. So week 2 begins with this proposal email and memo. And basically what we're doing is thinking of something in your workplace. You're going to think of some real project or a real problem or maybe a need that is in your workplace right now that isn't too huge, but is significant enough that you could arguably solve it and break down a true solution for it. And what you are going to do is initially in this assignment, write an email to the person, your supervisor, or whomever is the person who could authorize you to take on this project, and then attach a memo that breaks down what you think the problem is and how you think you could solve it. And essentially, you're asking for authorization to further research this idea you have. So some ideas that have come up in the past have been like establishing a dress code in a work environment or a workplace where maybe there's a dress code and it's too lax, or maybe it's not being enforced, or maybe it's too strict and you want to argue for a change in that, and how that would affect the rest of the company. Maybe breaks and time off, or vacation time is not being followed, or there is no real proper protocol established, and you'd like to propose something set up. But it could be something more like purchasing software or hardware. Maybe there's a particular software program that you're using currently that's outdated that could be upgraded to something else, or there's some newer, better, more effective or efficient product on the market, and you'd like to argue for the purchase of that. But you need to get your facts together and all of the information together and how this would affect the company overall. Some good ones have been like transforming space, particularly a room that's maybe not being used or is being misused or not effectively used, and arguing to transform that room into a break room or a computer lab. Or one of my medical students used an office area that it was really busy seeing patients, and the patient's area, existing patient's area, was too small, and she argued for an extension of that through some other empty space that wasn't being used so that there was more lobby room. Another one was an area in the back that wasn't being used that could be a smoking section for employees to go out on smoke break, because otherwise they were standing by trash cans, or they were standing too close to the doors and the entrances and exits. And so they argued to transform some unused area outside to be more aesthetically pleasing and better for the employees, but also better for the customers. And so those kinds of things have worked really well. If you do not have something real in your workplace, you're going to be making something up, and it is going to sound stupid and silly and petty, and it's going to be very hard for you, and it'll be almost impossible for you to really research. So what you're going to be looking for is true data, true research, true information about your problem, and information about the possible solution that you're going to propose, and what that would cost, and how long it would take, and who's involved, and the effects of that on your company. And if it's a fictional, made-up ABC company with this fictional, made-up problem, it's going to sound very silly to you. And it's going to sound silly to me too, but it's going to feel very silly to you. So if you are having any kind of hard time coming up with an idea of something you've kind of struggled with or noticed that is a different thing that you could just tackle in your workplace, every place has something. So if you're having difficulties thinking of something, call me and we'll bounce around some ideas and come up with something. Anyway, so I cannot emphasize enough that you need to pick a real project. It doesn't have to be huge. Like I said, you don't have to transform the world. You just have to have something that we can break down. So from there, so essentially in this email and memo, you're going to be asking for permission to pursue this. So you'll have an email that's addressed to the person who can give you that authority. You're going to say, I've recognized that this is an issue or this has come to be a problem in several departments. I have an idea for a solution, and a memo is attached that that's more detail or better articulates your solution idea. And then in the memo, you're going to explain that, and all the instructions are in this under this link, and how long they are. They're brief because essentially you're just asking for permission here. I'm in the instructor view here now, so it's going to look a little bit different on yours, but that's okay. And then you'll submit them there and follow the directions. And then in week 3, we're going to have a visual assignment. And what that's going to do then is you're going to pretend like your supervisor has given you authority. And remember, you're not addressing it to me. You're addressing it to a real supervisor. You can change the person's name if you want, if there's some kind of confidentiality thing going on. But these assignments will never get past me. So I've had students who were in law enforcement or the military and had extremely confidential types of issues that they used in this project, and it's always worked perfectly. I've never, ever in all my years had an issue with confidentiality breaching in this assignment. You can keep people's names if you need to, or alter maybe terminology that if you're that worried about it, but no one else will read this but me. I promise you. So visuals assignment is going to ask you to now take what type of information would be most appropriately demonstrated or effectively demonstrated for your reader visually. And those visuals could be charts and graphs if it's numerical information, or you have statistics or things like that. But it could also be a flow chart. It could be a timeline where you're going to say this project would take a total of 6 months, and here are the people who are involved, and here are the stages and deadlines, and you can represent that visually in a flowchart way, or a timeline, or a series of, and that can be visually easier to digest that information when it's color coded or different things like that as well. It could be a table that outlines different job duties and who are the key people who are going to be taking on those duties as this project commences. It could be a comparison, like maybe you want to purchase a particular, new printer or whatever, and there are 3 different models that could be chosen from. And so maybe you have a table that lays them out side by side so that you can see all of the specs of each product, and make whatever's going to help your reader, your supervisor, or whoever needs to make the decision, whatever information helps that person make a better decision. That's what we need in these visuals. It could be a diagram. It could be a floor map or a diagram of the building. If it's an area, maybe you have a footprint of that area and how it's going to be before and after. Maybe you have pictures and prototypes. Things like that. So don't think it has to be charts and graphs, but it needs to be real information. And I think you could design this and develop it the best yourself. But if you have certain situations where you're copying or taking pictures of things from the internet or using those kinds of images, they just need to be cited properly. So then you're going to end up incorporating those visuals in week 4 into a formal proposal. And you're going to have a memo at the beginning of this one as well. And it is not the same memo that you wrote before. The first memo is asking for permission to do this project and go into this research in the first place. The formal proposal is going to start with a memo that says, maybe it's even addressed to the same person, but it's going to say, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And attached is a formal proposal that breaks down the details of how this project will be put together and how long it's going to take or whatever it is, and the costs and the benefits. So you'll have some kind of cost benefits analysis in there, and the visuals will be placed within that formal proposal in the appropriate places. So that will all make sense to you later. But that's why it's really imperative that you pick something that's real. I've had lots of students take their proposals and actually give them to their supervisors and actually affect some change in their company. That it's a clean way of doing it. I have a template for this as far as how we're going to make it look. And obviously we're including the research that you're doing to gather the data that you need, and that'll be the research, and we'll cite it appropriately in APA format. But But if you have a particular letterhead or your company uses a particular format for things like this and you are already familiar with that, we can play with that so that it's something that's applicable for you as well in your real life current job. We're going to move from there into dealing with the Tools of Titans book. So you need to have that book. And I hope you got my messages about that. We're going to talk about instruction and directions and instructions, and then we're going to resign. It's really, this formal proposal is the big point of this course. This is the biggest, most important, well, I shouldn't say most important, but yeah, kind of, probably the most weighty part of this course, and it's right smack in the middle. So if you have any questions about this, or if you want to ask me for ideas, or you want to ask me if some ideas are appropriate, please contact me anytime, and I'd love to discuss them with you. Thank you very much.